First off, my name is Michael Bush. I'm one of the directors based out of our U.S. headquarters in San Francisco. By a show of hands, who has heard of Darktrace before? Here. I know we've given out more stamps than that, so I'm assuming there's probably a few more of you being shy. So I have the favorable position of talking to you guys right after lunch, which means I'll try and get through the material as quick as possible before you get sleepy. But if you do have any questions or anything remaining, we have a booth set up right out here, so please hold those until the end. So I have the honor of speaking to you a little bit today about our immune system approach to security and kind of our fundamentally different view on how to approach the security challenge. But a little bit about Darktrace in general. It's been a wild ride for us. We started and were founded by two distinct groups of people back in 2013. On one hand, we had machine learning specialists out of the University of Cambridge making breakthroughs in recursive Bayesian estimation, as well as we had government intelligence experts from MI5, GCHQ, those that were really sleeves rolled up in the day in the mud. And what they found was the tool sets that they had were just continually failing them to keep up. So they came together to form what now is Darktrace. As you can see by this infograph, we've grown quite a bit. In 5 years, we were actually just named to the CNBC Disruptor 50 list in the past month. So pretty excited about that. One thing that's interesting about this immune system approach is that every company, regardless of size, has this sort of issue with cybersecurity, or else we all want to be here today. And our approach is transferable to those of the smallest companies. Our smallest client is actually a 3-person hedge fund, all the way up to fully scalable to multinational banks with 2 million endpoints on their network, as well as the industry challenges. So many of you, I'm sure, come from different industries, whether it's education or financial services, each unique with their own challenges and regulations. Nevertheless, having a transferable approach is very important. And so kind of segueing there, what we're seeing more and more nowadays is IT is becoming a challenge to just get your hands around. So there's more people in and out of your network. There's more applications that you're accessing, whether it's something like O365, as well as you have partners and supply chains perhaps that are coming in and out, and getting an understanding, let alone protecting all of those assets, is a challenge. And amidst all this business challenge, we're now seeing more and more different varieties of cyber threats that are hitting these environments. So whether that's something that has some intent from an insider, someone trying to exfiltrate data out, whether that's sensitive information or corporate intellectual property, or someone just clicks on a spear phishing link campaign because they don't pay attention to all the security awareness training you give them. The challenge is growing, and it's difficult to get your hands around. As well as we're seeing things at Darktrace in terms of whether it's crypto mining campaigns, but really fast-moving attacks, AI-based attacks. Now, it's not just all about the AI defenses, but actually hackers and activists are using these types of tools to evade and remain undetected within networks. And traditionally, this is taking place in your kind of legacy approach to security, where you maybe have a firewall or an endpoint solution that's predicated on rules and signatures. So this is where we took a fundamentally different approach and eliminated the use of rules and signatures, and rather take this self-learning, self-adapting immune system approach. So just as you and I each have our own unique immune system that is able to understand what normal is for us and be able to filter out that noise regardless of what type of pathogen it may be, that's essentially what we're doing for your network, bespoke to your own environment. As no two networks are alike, no two immune systems are alike, it needs to be customized to you all. And so many of you have maybe walked by our booth and said, wow, that's a pretty GUI. Here it is again. But there's actually a lot of tangibility to what we're doing in terms of the visualization. So being able to understand what self looks like for every user and every device that they're using, and being able to detect threat types, regardless if it's something that's very new, very zero-day that maybe you have no idea or rule in place for, or something that's maybe very low and slow that's going to hide out in your network for 5 to 6 months. Being able to detect that and take a proactive approach is much more necessary nowadays. So transitioning to my favorite part, everyone hears buzzwords around machine learning nowadays. I'm from and live in San Francisco. I received an email yesterday about telling me where to go to lunch based off machine learning algorithms. It's everywhere. But we like to make a few distinctions in the different types of approaches to machine learning and how to kind of better understand it. So really, machine learning at its whole is meant to make some of the more mundane tasks and a lot of the laborious tasks easier and kind of handle a lot of that legwork for you. So truly, it needs to be able to deliver value very quickly. and it shouldn't have to take a long rollout period where you're pumping in all this sort of training sets of data, continually configuring the data. Rather, it should be doing that kind of work for you. So a distinction in what we use at Darktrace is unsupervised machine learning in combination with some deep learning to be able to understand and assess the environment without coming in and kind of applying training sets to put shape around it. It needs to be bespoke to what you're doing again. One other key aspect that we've seen that's been happening, as I mentioned, these velocity of these AI attacks are happening much, much more quickly, is being able to autonomously respond using this sophisticated type of AI. So it's important to be able to detect when someone gets in, but many times that can happen at 2 in the morning and you're away from your desk or unable to take that computer or device offline. Now what we've created is what we call AntAgina, going back to the immune system approach, similar to an antibody that's actually fighting back on your behalf. AntAgina is what we use through a combination of TCP resets and IP spoofing to essentially target in a surgical manner to enforce those patterns of life or normalcy within the network. So instead of blocking it initially, being able to shape it back to where you're going. And we now have about, I would say, about 1,000 clients worldwide using this type of technology, and we've had some great success stories that I'll share with you in terms of things like ransomware that might be pretty nasty and moving quickly. But all in all, this immune system approach has become very necessary, again, transitioning from a rule and signature type approach, because of the different sort of use cases we see from it. And we see about 64,000 of these that bypass teams that have big security resources and budgets, you know, the latest and greatest sort of endpoint or AV solutions, but it's about the methodology. So things like biometric scanners being compromised because you don't change the admin password. And I have 2 specific use cases I want to share with you. One that you may be familiar with that we've seen. This one got a lot of publicity in the news when this first came out, but yes, we were in a proof of value with a client, and they had a fish tank that was remote, that was connected to the internet on their network. Why they wanted to do that instead of just feeding the fish themselves is beyond me, but that's the element of human laziness, I suppose. But it was internet connected on its own private VPN, so that way it would automatically clean and feed the fish within the tank. What the IT team there noticed was that they had one of Darktrace's models focused on data transfers. They saw 10 gigs, a rather large amount, being exfiltrated out of their network, which was odd because that's a rather large exchange. Secondly, they saw that this destination was actually somewhere in Finland, and being a casino that has no business in Finland, very, very odd. And so what they tracked back using Darktrace was actually this was the IoT device that was being the source of the outside attacker was able to gain access through their network, access high roller database, and exfiltrate it there. So classic example of maybe an IoT vulnerability and visibility you didn't have prior. The second one, touching back to the AntAgina that I wanted to share, and I think this is a pretty common one in maybe our day in life. We're not all casino high rollers. I know I'm not. But we all have personal email accounts. And this was actually an instance of someone at one of our financial service companies that accessed their own personal Gmail account during the day, even though it's against corporate policy to be on their own personal accounts. And when they did that, they clicked into a zip file which had a ransomware payload in it. This took all of about 33 seconds from click to start spreading SMB read and writes, trying to basically encrypt their sensitive file information. Luckily for this organization, they had Darktrace's AntAgina in place, and from the initial download or click into the zip file, we were able to monitor this and actually take autonomous response to prohibit it, so saving weeks worth of incident response down the road for the team. And this is the type of stuff that you need to be able to have machine fight on machine because it's going to happen so quickly. Even the most built-out SOCs with 40 to 50 people truly can't keep up with the pace of some of these things that spread pretty nastily through your environment. Truly, in conclusion, again, this is a turbo talk. I don't have much prepared for you all today. Just want to make it apparent, this different style approach to security, this immune system approach, using behavior to understand security threats and vulnerabilities, rather than applying some type of preset configured rule or signature that might be outdated. Lastly, you have to be able to have a tool that is adjustable to your data and understanding all of your data feeds, whether it's coming from a corporate office, if it's in the cloud, if it's ICS or operational technology and SCADA. Being able to apply this methodology should be universal, and that's what we aim to do. So I'll leave you with a few of just our customer testimonials. And like I said, we'll be out there in the booth. But thank you for your time and welcome us to Hawaii. Mahalo.